years, Matthew, living in Moscow, so
did.
you know both sides of the equation. Have you ever known a time when there's so much unpredictability? I mean, given the fact that Trump's been president before and Putin was in power then, things have moved on, haven't they, and got considerably more difficult.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I mean, throughout my career, I began in 1989 in the U.S. Foreign Service, and okay, that was an era of great upheaval, but afterward there was a certain sense of predictability. And now it's really hard to figure out what's going to happen. I mean, if Harris wins, of course she's going to continue the Biden approach of strong sanctions on Russia and trying to push and squeeze Russia to stop. And then cut a deal, but not on Russia's terms, but on terms that are acceptable to Ukraine. I think if Trump wins, I really do think he wants to find a different way to broker a deal.
And how does he do that?
Well, there's been a really interesting development over the course of the last few months, which is that Russia and Ukraine, from time to time, have been discussing an agreement, brokered maybe by Qatar, to stop attacking each other's energy infrastructure this winter. That in August, when Ukraine invaded Kursk in Russia, that stopped. But the talks have begun. And about 2 weeks ago, President Zelensky said, well, if those energy talks proceed, maybe they could broaden into some peace talks. So there's something out there. I think Zelensky is thinking if Trump wins, he wants to negotiate.
So it has to be face-saving to some extent, as well as practical with the energy sources there. I mean, Harris, in turn, if she becomes president of the United States, is she going to be tough on Putin, or is she going to be rather like Biden and just sort of say something but not do very much indeed?
Well, I mean, I think Biden thinks he was tough in terms of the sanctions,
was he? What
right?
do you think?
Look, I'm a cold warrior, so I always think we could tighten the sanctions, and the fact that Russia is still able to sell natural gas without any restrictions and is able to easily get.
It was more than tokenism then.
It's more than tokenism, but the sanctions are really leaky. And if we really wanted to squeeze Moscow, the U.S. knows what it would need to do. The problem is that our European allies don't want too much squeezing on energy supplies, right? And our European allies are so important to us. But they, especially Germany, rely on lower-cost Russian gas for their economies to keep going. So it's a difficult balancing act. But if we wanted to squeeze, there's more squeezing we could do.
Do you buy this argument that Donald Trump has to listen to his European, well, they're not neighbours, but near neighbours, when they say, if you allow Putin to get away with this, the next step is going to be further to the west, further into European territory? Do you think he buys that argument? Or even if he does it matter to him as an isolationist?
Yeah, I think no and no. Yeah, I personally believe in that argument, by the way, but I think Trump doesn't care. I think, it's clear that his foreign policy is going to be based on a clear-cut scorecard of trade deficits. So if the U.S. has a trade deficit with any country, whether it's in NATO or not, that's bad. If the U.S. has a trade surplus with any country, regardless of whether or not they're in NATO, that's good. I think that's going to drive the foreign policy of Trump. So all the stuff about alliances and what you were just talking about doesn't matter to him.
The realpolitik is rather horrid, but it's what we have to live with.
I think it is.
Thank you very much indeed, Matthew.
Thanks,
Bryza.
David.